The other thing I want to talk about is the metaphorical language that is used in the Bible, especially for dreams, for visions, for prophecies. Okay, and prophetic language, prophetic scripture is usually written using very symbolic, metaphorical language. Okay, and so that is what we see throughout all of Revelation. Okay, now it is only our Western minds that we want to look at this and we want to try to take everything literally. Okay, and so that's what a lot of premillennialists do, and they've interpreted all of this, that this stuff is actually physically going to happen at some point in the future. And that's why it's so hard for them to believe that this stuff has already happened, because we didn't see hail and fire mixed with blood hurling to the earth. A third of the earth was never burned up, okay? And so it's because of the way that they look at this literally, and they are not able to understand that it is symbolic, metaphorical language. So that's part of where that disconnect happens, I believe. Okay, but if you look at the rest of the Bible and the way, and I'm going to give you some examples, okay, in case you're saying, I don't think so, Blue. Let me give you some examples. Okay, so John has said several times he is in the Spirit. So I believe what he is seeing now is what is happening in the spirit realm, okay? Because there are physical things happening during the battle when the Romans destroyed Jerusalem. There were all these actual physical things happening. But while those physical things were happening, there were also all this other stuff that was happening in the spiritual realm. That's what John is seeing, in the spiritual realm, because he says over and over he was in the Spirit. Now, let me give you a couple of examples from the Bible of other places where it uses metaphorical languages that might be a little bit easier for us to understand. Okay, for example, and then I'll probably end with that. For example, okay, so earlier in Revelation, I read the verse where Jesus says, Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come into him. Okay, so we all know that verse, right? So when you hear that verse, do you think that there is actually a literal wooden door somewhere and Jesus is knocking on it? No, you know that what that means is metaphorical language. You know that what that means is Jesus wants to be a part of your life. He wants you to listen to his voice and seek him and have a relationship with him, right? Okay, here's another example. Earlier tonight, when I read the scripture about when Jesus told Peter that he was going to give him the keys to the kingdom. Okay. Do you think that what he meant is that in the kingdom of heaven, there's this big, huge door somewhere with a little keyhole, and that now Peter has like a ring of keys, and Peter has to go and put the key in the lock and turn it and unlock the door? No, we know that's not what he means. We know this is metaphorical language, and he's talking about, a new spiritual doorways are being opened to you, and authority is being given to you over, in the kingdom of heaven, okay, in the spiritual realm, okay? So when we're talking about the spiritual realm, things do not follow the same rules that they do on the physical realm, okay? It's very different. Let me give you one more example, okay? And that is Joseph in the Old Testament. When Joseph had his two dreams, okay? Remember, he dreamed that there were all these sheaves of grain, and then he had his sheaf of grain, and then all the ones around it belonged to his brothers, and they all bowed down to his sheaf of grain. Okay. And then he had another dream where all of these stars and the sun and moon all bowed down to him. Okay. And so we know that actually symbolized that his brothers and his family would eventually bow down to him, because he would be, in authority over them. So, but we never for once are thinking that, the stars are actually going to bow down, or there really were these sheaves of grain that are going to bow down, because it's symbolic, metaphorical language. Okay. So that's what we're seeing here in Revelation. So I believe that all of these trumpets and everything that we see described that John is seeing, just writing down what he sees, that these indicate things that happened during the battle when Rome descended upon Jerusalem and destroyed the temple and destroyed Jerusalem. Okay. And that we are seeing in the spiritual realm what was happening, and they correlate to things that actually happened in the physical realm during this battle. Now, this battle lasted 3.5 months. Okay. It wasn't something that is, took a day or 2 days. 3.5 months. And we have specific details about that battle. Okay. And I'm going to have to wait till next week to start going through this, but I've done a lot of research about this. And what I have found, I believe, all of these so like a 20-page document written by Josephus, and I'll explain more about this next week, of all of the details of this battle that took place when Rome descended upon Jerusalem and destroyed Jerusalem and destroyed the temple. And over 1 million Jewish people lost their lives during this battle. And I believe that I have found, as I've been reading through this very, very carefully, I have found the markers of all the trumpets that we're going to see next week and what happened in the physical world when these trumpets were sounded in the spiritual realm. Okay. All right. So that I'm just going to leave you with that. So I think it's fascinating stuff. So I hope that you come back next week and join me for that.